Welcome to the Great Distraction.
How's it going, people? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is no tech for kids. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-host Thomas.
How's it going?
Rick.
Hey, buddy.
And Glenn.
Howdy ho, folks.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with a little something to ponder, if nothing else. Yeah, this is kind of an odd topic, and it is especially odd because none of us have children. So
that we are admitting to.
That we are aware of.
That's right. But don't let that discourage you because we still have some interesting stuff to talk about it.
We still have an opinion on how you raise your kids.
That's right.
Those little bastards.
You know, I do have a lot of siblings, so does that count for something?
And I think that will have, I do too, and I think that will have relevancy in this topic as we continue through this discussion here. So, I wanted to start off saying I do not have kids, none of us have kids, and I am also not in the habit of trying to tell anyone how to raise said kids.
You're doing it wrong.
I'm losing that game, aren't I? But yeah, like I said, nevertheless, an interesting topic to consider and discuss anyway. Now, how did this come about? I think I came up with this one. I can't remember, but and I think that I was trying to rack my brain. So I usually, when we come up with topics, we try and keep track of who actually suggested them. That way, when it comes time to start developing the topic and then record the episode, we can kind of look to that person and say, hey, Glenn, you remember when you mentioned this one? Why in the hell did you bring this up? Because I don't know what you're talking about here.
You expect me to remember what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
Jeez.
So that's why we try and keep a good list running with a little small description, and we can remember who to go to when it comes time to actually develop that topic and produce an episode out of it. But that's why I think that I'm the one that came up with this.
So what are we talking about, Ben?
And ironically
Something
enough,
about somebody else's kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, oddly enough, not ironically, I think that if I remember correctly, it came about because of some stuff some celebrities said. Now, ordinarily, I'm not the type that takes any advice or really heeds any...
Not worried about Angelina Jolie's comments.
Don't really care. Don't follow it. Don't even pay attention to it. However, it wasn't those type of celebrity. It was specifically Silicon Valley icon celebrities. Of the Gates, Jobs, Cooks manner, and Zuckerberg.
I think this actually came from something else we were talking about because the conversation went about how some of the people like Jobs handle cell phones and iPads and stuff.
Maybe that is where
kids.
it came from. Then okay, so maybe we did derive from it. Either way, there it was. Here we are. Come see, come saw, and now. Yeah, and here's what we're doing. So some of the stuff that in proof to that testament is so Gates in 2007 has been quoted a number of times for Bill Gates, that is Microsoft, saying that he doesn't let his daughter. Originally, I think he was publicly saying that she was playing too much of a video game. And he was like, no, we put a time limit on that. And then he later went on to say that he would not give his daughter or let his daughter have or basically use cell phones until she was like 14. And Jobs in 2011 was actually publicly said that he does not let his kids use iPads. I was like, that's really ironic that you are the owner of the company or CEO of the company that invented the damn thing, and you don't let your kid use it, right? So it's like that.
That's got to throw some caution into people who are paying attention.
Well,
it's that old saying, don't get high on your own supply.
Right?
Yeah. That's it. I may be the owner, but I'm not a patron, right? It says something about your product.
You can sell cigarettes, but don't smoke them.
Yeah. Cook in 2018 said the same thing regarding his kids and social media. And later, he was also publicly stated that Apple products are not meant for constant use. What?
Who said that?
Cook.
Who's this guy?
Tim Cook. He's the CEO
Definitely
of
not
Apple.
their marketing agent.
He's the CEO of Apple. When Jobs died, he was next in line.
Used to be.
Tim, really? Yeah.
You gotta say some shit like that.
Yeah, the first thing that reminded me of, and I wrote it down here in my notes because it hit home. Did you? All of us did, but hopefully those of you out in listening land also heard this or saw this. The McDonald's documentary, Super Size Me. Everybody saw Super Size Me, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Glenn, you on that board?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So you guys, do you recall Super Size Me? That when they were as the guy was going through the degradation of eating the food every day, he constantly hit up executives, marketing executives at McDonald's, whoever he could get to, as high up as he could get, right? And there was one that made a public, was a PR exec, I think, and made a public statement, something to the effect, I couldn't find the exact words, watch the documentary if you haven't seen it. If you've already seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, he got the guy to actually say, McDonald's food isn't meant to be a sustainable diet. I mean, anybody who's willing to admit that knows this stuff is garbage, right? Now, we're actually all Apple product owners here, but again, it's not.
I'm still in denial.
Right.
Well, whatever.
It's what's available.
It's yeah, exactly. It's just how life fell in for us, and that happens to be what. I don't think any of us are hardcore fanboys or anything, but it's just how it kind of came to be. But also, it goes along along the lines of the same thing we've said 1,000 times on tons of other topics: is all things in moderation, right? I mean, you're going to eat McDonald's, fine. If you
Just
can
don't get in my car afterwards.
Oh God! If you can choke it down, yeah, and don't leave the to-go bag in my car either, because
I don't let anybody even buy that and get in my car.
nah, yeah, that stuff's brutal. But regardless of how you feel about it, if you're moderating yourself, with these things, you shouldn't be in too bad of a problem, or you shouldn't have too bad of a problem with it. However, that may not necessarily be the case, or moderation is definitely the case, but how much is moderation and how that's defined for children regarding using these devices is a little bit of a different situation than it actually is quite a bit of a different situation than it is for adults. So much so that even in what I was reading here, since I had started off with Silicon Valley, some of the apparently there are several, if not more now. I don't know how old this data was, of what they call low-tech schools that are out there, that are actually elementary schools that are basically trying to go back to the way we used to be taught without all kinds of without fighting to integrate technology more and more into the everyday learning environment. And that's the kind of stuff that some of this has spawned, is this type of low-tech mentality that some of these higher ups here and some of these educational systems have begun to spin off.
Is that because of the portion or where the children are in that stage of development,
Yes.
trying to build social skills?
We'll get to that. And before I go into that, I did want to add one more thing, is that we have seen this many times before with as much kids are inundated with this stuff. I mean, what kid doesn't play with the parent's cell phone or have their own tablet, or in the back of the car they're playing with the tablet, or there's a video game console that they're into. Like, of all ages, we as human beings do this nowadays. And one of the first things that made me think of was, man, we've seen this before. Turning kids into loyal customers early on is an old trick. I mean, we saw it with tobacco, we saw it with alcohol, we saw it with Apple. I mean, when those of us who were born in the '80s remember, when you went to your computer lab days in your elementary school, what was the computer lab filled with? Apple computers, Macintosh computers. So, I mean, we've seen this angle many times. Well, hell, McDonald's, Happy Meals. I mean,
any of it gets inundated in pop culture.
Exactly. Especially if they can get it locked into the kids, because that Disneyland, because that breeds the next generation of hardcore, persistent, loyal follower.
You missed a big one. Religion.
Well, yeah. Of course, I was thinking more company route, but yeah, you start there. You start the religion as a kid.
It's still business, man.
That's why it's so important to baptize your children, because you got to indoctrinate them into the brainwashing early on. Don't forget. So going down to the studies now, because that's where kind of Glenn was leading there, I think. First of all, before we start talking about any of the studies, I wanted to say that the data on a lot of these is very inconclusive. So as always, go out, do your own research before don't make your conclusions off of what we say. We are not professionals in any sense of the term, professional podcasters.
Professional opinion givers.
That's it. It's professionally unpaid podcasters. But
hey, just because I like the sound of my voice doesn't...
Is that payment enough, Glenn? Glenn just goes home and turns it on, listens to it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speak to me.
I talk to myself, then just play it back on.
Oh, yeah. I got you. So
All
anyway.
smiles.
Yeah.
Right?
So, go out and and do your own research, especially if you're going to take this information, and you should be doing this kind of research if you're raising children.
Right.
Please do
Or
all of
allowing
us.
them to have a phone in front of their face
yes.
13 hours a day.
Please do us all a favor, do society a favor, and do lots of research on how to properly raise children. It'll pay off in the long run for you too. One of the things that so one of the first studies was in the findings that it leaned to. A lot of these are not, like I said, conclusive. They have not found hard facts yet, but the findings are leaning to a reduced interaction with others by children that are growing up with an iPad stuck in their face or a phone. Or
They're
whatever.
antisocial.
Well, one of the things that they were saying is not necessarily that it makes them antisocial,
yeah.
but that it's a constant pulling of their focus and attention on the device and not others. So there was another. The reason this is a big problem is not only for the social aspect but when you're like a little baby and you can't talk, or you're under a year old, let's say. A lot of what you're learning as far as how to be a human and manipulate yourself in this world is learned by watching others and copying them. And the concern, they think that for what I was reading, is they think that the reduced growth or development in that area was not necessarily due to just the distraction, but also the fact that if they are distracted, they're not watching others, so they're not learning, because the iPad display and the YouTube video or the cartoon isn't teaching them how to social cues, isn't teaching them how to communicate with others, isn't teaching them how to feed themselves, wipe their ass, I don't know, whatever kids got to learn when they're really young.
All
right?
the basics.
All the basics, right?
At the same time, if they have a parent that is looking at a phone constantly throughout the day, is that not also instilling?
You're absolutely right. And I will definitely delve into that more.
Learned behavior.
Yes,
Right.
because that's the learned behavior that they're watching, right? So if they see mom looking at her phone all the damn time while they're standing in line, while they're waiting for pick up this person or
That's
whatever.
just how you behave.
That's the
what you
first thing
do.
they think is, man, mom, give me that phone. Let me look at that. And then we'll get into a little bit of the technology too, but that display does have mentally stimulating effects to it, which make it a sort of addictive thing to look at.
Gotta get that fix.
I've seen that firsthand. It does seem like very addictive traits that you see with children and devices. Like every adult they come in contact with, they're asking, "Can I have your phone? Where's your iPad?"
Yep.
And they know how to use it better than I've never
yeah.
owned an iPad, but my niece has had like 3. Mm-hmm. She knows how to use it better than her grandfather does.
Yep, and the people who are buying it for her.
Yeah, and getting back to one of your points there, you were making where there's a lot of inconclusive data. I think it's because the technology is changing faster
Yeah.
than they can keep up with.
And there's not enough studies.
You don't have enough test subjects that
Yep.
you can monitor for a longer enough period of time to figure out what is going on or eliminate things that may be more of a correlation than a causation.
Absolutely. Okay, so one of the other effects of not watching and copying others because they're distracted is, and this one seemed to be more common for some of the studies that I had read about, was delayed speech development. Basically, communication skills, from as I understood it, again, because they're not watching social cues and learning how to communicate with normal people by watching other people, or it's being skewed by watching a one-sided, or a cartoon, a one-sided conversation on a video, or whatever. They didn't really explain how that could be, how it was affecting it.
I don't know if I agree with that. Again, I don't have children yet, and most of my understanding of this is watching my niece.
And mine too, and my little cousins. That's
Yeah.
what I'm playing off of here.
And maybe it's on what her parent allowed her to watch, but they were more kind of educational videos and stuff that were geared towards children her age, and they would help them kind of like learn about colors and numbers and talk. And now she was maybe 2 years old and couldn't identify like the series of numbers or whatever, but she was still getting the sounds out and learning to talk in that fashion. So I don't believe that it stinted her
Development?
her development or learning to talk or anything along those lines, but it definitely stinted her attention span or her patience for things like being in the car.
Okay, let me go work off of the first one there you had. From my findings, educational purposes versus entertainment was one of the big, very common topics for articles. And it does seem there were several larger studies, because I guess these are a little easier to do studies on because they can watch the children in an educational environment. Devices do seem to show use of devices in learning settings or educational settings do actually seem to show considerable advantages in teaching children things. So they were basically like reading comprehension and mathematics and some other. I can't remember what the other stuff I was reading, but they were saying, there does seem to be an advantage to utilizing these in the educational curriculums.
Really?
And the first thing I thought was, I wonder if, two things. One of the things that they had suggested was that may be because they are what they're staring at in the device are apps that are developed specifically with the intent and motivation and layout to be educational. So they're not playing Candy Crush and they're not watching, Teletubbies, or I don't even know what kids watch anymore, but, they're utilizing applications, programs that are written to be educational to.
But you basically, that's in a school setting.
True.
Okay.
True.
So let's talk about socially or at home.
Well, what Rick was saying is that your parents could be showing their kids things like this.
They could be handing them the phone and going,
That's
"Be
right.
quiet, get out of my way."
Play Candy Crush.
Yeah, which
It's
is
a new
what
babysitter.
I see. Yeah, it's a babysitter. That's what I say
Yeah.
most of the time.
Babysitter.
And so along the same lines, here's what I was thinking when I first read the entertainment versus educational, along the same lines of how these things can be used as quote unquote babysitters, they hold the attention of the viewer. You kind of get sucked into the damn thing and you stare at it, right?
Sure.
I think that is maybe what helps lock the attention in the educational setting. Now, I'm not basing this on anything. Again, I'm not educated in this in child development for sure, but I'm sitting here thinking, damn, if they get so fascinated and fixated by staring at it, well, if they stare at it and then there's an educational point behind it and they're learning something, now their attention is held and they're learning.
How can we test this hypothesis?
Yes. Note that is a hypothesis, not a theory.
Well, what? A long time ago, Ben, you and I had this conversation when we were sort of bringing this topic up in development was one of the things, and I could never find this article after the one or two times I read it initially, but one of the things that they talked about with younger kids, especially in the development of like 1 to 5. Staring at a screen because of the colors and the way that your eyes perceive things, there was this article. I wish it was. I think it was removed from the internet. To be completely honest, they honestly talked about the way that the human eye develops and how it sends messages to the brain, and that was because of the lights and the other stimuli from the screens was altering that, and that was one of the things that they were trying to dig deeper into to study, and no one really talked about it. And all of a sudden, it just kind of got washed away.
It did. I could not find much scientific evidence, or rather, a study or research on that at all anymore.
Yeah.
It seemed to get all washed away by repeat articles of is this bad for your children? Is this bad?
Yeah.
And they just repeat themselves.
But I remember reading one
Yeah.
that talked a lot about the way that
So do I.
that developing children, the way you perceive and the way information is passed through your eyes, the way it develops, the connections between your eye and your brain, just the whole development of that way that you perceive things is being altered. And light, and you can think of light in the same way too. I mean, everybody knows if you leave certain color lights on in a bedroom or in places you're sleeping, those things do affect you. They affect your mood. They
Well,
can affect
people
your
are
sleep
learning, but
patterns.
yeah.
They're learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, two things there. Yeah, we are definitely being general public is definitely being more educated on the effects of different color temperatures of light. You're seeing that now. I'm way behind times, but I just installed Windows 10 in my latest computer build, and it's built in there to cool the temperature. Now that's finally an option, so it'll just cool the temperature or warm the temperature depending on if you're late at night or whatever, to make it so it stimulates the eye less, unless if you're planning on going to bed soon. Or I just got a new ebook reader too that has that option. Unlike the Kindles do not, and that was one of the reasons I was kind of trying to ditch the Kindle.
Yeah.
When you're reading, it'll turn the light an orangish or a yellow. You have varying degrees, and then at night, so that you can read and it doesn't stimulate the brain too much and wake you back up. And then you can turn it back to blue and white later in the daytime or whatever, or turn it off if it's plenty of light.
Well, one of the things I always thought was kind of strange, especially for developing kids, if you got something this close to your face all the time, and your eyes are developing, and you're developing a pattern.
How's it
of what
affect your
you do.
farsight?
Exactly.
Right, you have a constant focus point.
I mean,
Right,
when
for
I
close
look at my
focus point.
when I look at my phone for a little while and I look up, I'm like, it takes me a second. I mean,
Yeah.
if your eyes are developing and that hasn't, matured yet, I mean, how much is that affecting people's sight for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, babies for sure. Yep. Yeah, when you see like one of those like crib mounts that holds an iPad or something, you're like, oh, jeez, dude, really?
Just plug it into the back of the kid's head. Come on,
That's not good.
just Matrix,
Yeah. So,
Mainline that shit.
yeah.
right?
You're right in the back of back of the neck. Where's the plug? Literacy scores actually were one of the ones that showed the higher than traditional means when these devices were used in the educational academic settings for I don't know what it was like before third grade or something like that. And however, they did show that the benefit was greatly reduced when it was used for anything other than just teaching purposes. It seemed to just move more negative. The effects seem to be moved more negatively when just used for entertainment. There was go ahead. There was another another avenue of studies that I was really interested in too was, and it claimed this one seemed to have very little backing behind it, but I don't know. It's something to consider. We don't know yet at this point. And like Thomas was saying, some of these things seem to get swept under the rug and disappear. Like, did we ever get the answer? I know it's kind of random and it sounds conspiracy theorist, but conspiracy theorist. Anyway, we never got an answer. Do cell phones cause cancer? I mean,
Right. We still don't know.
What happened to the studies for that? Or do these lights does this light at a development age on these displays actually hurt us? It just disappears. And even if they don't have an answer, the studies should still be being done. And
we should be questioning and asking things. But I think a lot of times those things get kind of pushed away on purpose.
Oh, hell yeah, they
All
do.
these companies control the internet. I mean,
Yes.
if they don't want some bad negative response about an iPhone, why not give your kid an iPhone the second it's born?
Google makes tablets. You think
Right.
they're gonna? You think they also control the internet searches that you're using to get your facts.
Right.
I mean, they can control anything they want, like the news companies. But yeah, and that this what I was alluding to here was this. There was a suggestion based on some studies that it was possible that this lack of attention or this distraction to these glowing devices actually may reduce the bonding between parent and child.
I could see it.
Yeah, and it plays. I think it plays off what Glenn was saying. Is that this? They're wondering that this could be whether or not this could be due to both parents being on the phone instead of giving the child attention, and or the child staring at the phone or the iPad or tablet or whatever the device.
Oh, you're not developing the standard family interaction. Your
social
interference.
skills. Yeah.
Yep. You got mom and dad been, doing whatever they're doing all day, tired from working, sit down, the kids at the table, they're staring at their phones on the table or their iPad, the kid's playing his iPad.
One of the things that disturbed me about this sort of thing, and I think it's cell phones in general too, is it's becoming socially acceptable for everybody to ignore everything except that little bitty screen. Nobody opens the door for each other, and nobody's.
I mean, like kills me is when I see somebody walking across the street staring at their phone.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
best.
I just wait for the car to hit
Darwinism, dude. It's Darwinism.
Right.
I've seen people run into poles, like walk into things.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that separatism of like making it everybody. It's. I think socially it's a bigger problem because we're making everybody seem like they live in their own little world. So they don't learn to communicate early because they don't have to, because instead of talking to mom and dad, they have this phone or iPad or whatever to look at, and that entertains them. And if that's all you have as communication to the world, that becomes what your attention goes to. So you lose those skills, just like Glenn was saying before.
Or never develop them.
Or never develop them about social things. That's what I think is the scariest part for me, because I feel like as the world's going with technology, we're making it less and less and less need to communicate with people physically and in lots of ways. I'll just email you. Well, why can't you call me? I'll just text you. Why can't you call me? Yeah. Why can't you turn around and say hi? I'm in the same restaurant. You got to text you.
Every time I think of this kind of stuff, it always reminds me of WALL-E.
Right?
It's so true.
How far away are we from my little floating chair and my screen in front of me where I talk to everybody through the HUD?
You're about 300 pounds away from it. That's how far.
And the bone density has to reduce so I can't walk anymore. And yes.
Maybe two
We're on
generations.
our way.
Yeah, definitely seems like it.
And along the same track that Thomas was on, we're conditioning ourselves to not be okay with being bored or just dealing with quiet, right? You know, it's like if you're standing in line at the grocery store, look around.
Right.
Everybody's
Oh,
looking
man.
at their fucking phone.
Yeah.
Why can't you just think about your day?
Yeah.
Heaven forbid you spend time pondering about life, universe, and everything.
Yeah. Or fire up a fucking conversation with the person standing next to you.
Right.
On top of that, there is
That's a tough
plenty,
one.
and I encourage you to do your research on this one. There is plenty of research showing that it is healthy for the human mind to be bored.
Especially with developing children.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It actually it gives
That's where imagination starts.
well for
And
children
creativity,
absolutely.
problem solving.
For us, it has something to. I can't remember now. It was a while ago. I was researching this. I was kind of trying to figure out if we could develop it into a topic to talk about. But it was something along the lines of that we actually utilize that time for converting long-term to short-term, kind of like sleep.
Yeah.
And I can't remember with some other stuff that was like extremely important stuff that our brains need to go through, and if we don't allow it the time, this is what I think that I've always I think when I was reading about it, this is one of the reasons I think meditation is so beneficial to people, and why people who do it find it to be so useful and important, because I think it gives you the conscious, not the subconscious when you're asleep, the conscious ability to be bored essentially with a clear mind and go through the things that you have to go through, your brain wants to be going through, when it has the opportunity to just relax, chill out, and not worry or do other things that are so distracting.
Well, I think too with like meditation and being bored, it teaches you how to let things go,
Yeah.
to focus on just breathing and be, like when people go to sleep, I constantly hear people say, "Oh, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep."
Can't sleep.
Yeah, how close is your cell phone to you? When's the last time you used your cell phone before you tried to go to bed?
If it ain't the damn cell phone, it's all the other stupid stuff I'm worried about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then
But I think we're in an era with technology where there's so much stuff being crammed in everybody's face, and especially little kids. They don't need to hear and see all these videos every 2 seconds blasted in their mind. They need to just develop on their own, and that's going back to the meditation or being bored. That's a hugely helpful thing to do, and just removing the screen from people. I mean, I've got friends whose kids are constantly, they have their own iPod. Why does a 4-year-old kid have their own iPod? Yeah. Or if they do, why isn't it controlled, where that's maybe an hour a day or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So I wanted to play off two things off of that. Well, I just read this thing a couple days ago, and it had mentioned it was regarding why do we sleep bad, right? Why does none of us get enough sleep? Oh, because I was researching for the sleep episode. That's right.
Yeah.
For the topic, another topic, and then one of the things it was saying is, well, one of the worst things that all of us do right before we go to bed, pretty much, is you go into the brightly lit bathroom and stare in the mirror, brush your teeth, whatever. That bright light is actually making it harder to go to sleep.
Light a candle.
Yeah, or I have a dimmer on mine, so I keep mine.
Just don't brush your teeth.
You don't need those teeth. What's the matter with you?
They're
Paid for
overrated.
by the Dental Association of America.
That's right. They're going to give us a kickback now. Thank you. Also, use fluoride.
And eat candy.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory.
That's a hot topic.
Yeah, that good old fluoride. I can't remember what the second thing was now because I completely lost my train of thought. However, which is what happens when I try and make one point.
You've been staring at that goddamn screen for too long, man.
So another point there is efficiency. If you are constantly distracting yourself and staring at a screen,
Dude, it kills half my day here.
totally.
I mean,
Oh, it's a waste of time. Absolutely.
Leave your phone at home for a week and see how much more you get done during your day.
Or just drive somewhere to get, once a day. Like, people are so attached to their phone. Like, people, and I saw this a while back, that there was a survey where people were like, would you rather lose your wallet or your cell phone? And they said wallet.
Yeah.
Because it's not as helpful as your cell phone is.
No, and yeah, with my
And
cell
it's also
phone, I
a
can
personal
get
need.
all my stuff shut down from my wallet, and I can pay with my cell phone because I don't have my wallet. I got cash. Because I don't have cash. Yeah, I think at this point in time, the cell phone is actually more important than the wallet.
As soon as my driver's license is accessible from my phone, I can see the wall disappearing.
I thought I heard there were states that were doing IDs in
Digital
app now.
ID?
Yeah, digital
Oh,
ID.
that's creepy.
That does seem creepy, because that'd be like, oh man, you get hacked.
Oh, easy.
What? Like it can't happen now with a damn regular ID.
Well, I know,
Well-
but I mean, it seems like, I don't know. To me, I feel like every time something goes into the digital world, it's more sought after, because lazier people who can hide from authority or whatever can go after things.
Well,
or
it
steal
reduces
things.
your security.
You can't
Yeah.
see your threat.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You could walk through an RFID field or some shit, and it'll be taken from you, and you're not even
don't
aware
even
of
know,
it.
yeah.
You're going to be taken.
Right. Just your information.
The way you grit your teeth when you said that just was like, oh man.
Because I hated that movie. It was terrible. And the following up ones were worse. Anyway, yeah. So thinking about this stuff led me to wonder. Now that those are the studies. So based on those studies, what I'm bringing up here now is not based on studies, but at least not that I looked for. But it kind of made me. We've touched on a few of these already. Kind of made me wonder about, well, how does this play into, for example, ADD and ADHD? I watch my younger cousins and family members and whatnot, and these now when I say younger, I mean let's say under 11 or so. I don't know, under 10, something like that. They are definitely growing up in a different time than we did. They are way overloaded with a lot of information. I don't want to say too much because I suppose that's a relative term. They probably said that about us when we were growing up. However, it is pretty crazy to watch a 9 or 10-year-old play a video game, watch a YouTube or Twitch stream on a tablet, talk on the phone to their friends that they're playing the video game with, and streaming themselves playing the video game at the same time. And like, you have like 3 screens in front of you, all doing different things, and this is okay.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. They seem actually relaxed. It would stress me the hell out. Like, I have to pay attention to all this stuff at the same time and make sure I'm doing it right for all, it's ridiculous.
I think that's one of the benefits they're saying is it's teaching these kids hand-eye coordination, finger dexterity, and multitasking skills.
However, when it comes time to do the healthy mental stuff like shut down, I'm wondering how that plays in. I have trouble doing that every night when I've got a million things that I'm working on going through my head and I can't go to sleep. How does I guess if you grew up used to it, maybe you can shut it off. You can go, 90% processor speed, then down to 20 so you can go to sleep, and you can go up and down real quick and shut it down and turn it on, and you can control it, manipulate it easier.
You just need to pump a bunch of cannabis smoke into their room. They'll eventually pass out.
Little shot of brandy, put them to sleep.
Grandpa would be brandy.
I
Right.
wonder what that effect might have on what could be perceived as constant, attention deficit.
Well, kind of like you were leading at, our parents' generation were saying the same thing about us for video games, right?
I know.
So how many kids do you know that would pretend to go to sleep for long enough for their parents to believe it, and they'd wake up and go start playing video games all night
I did it.
and go to school the next day as a zombie?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like a learned skill, but I don't think you can get your body to go, or your brain to go from like 90%, like you were saying, down to a relaxed state.
Or unless you were raised and grew up doing that. For me, I can distinctly remember the time period in which I started getting overwhelmed with the amount of information that I was able to, for lack of a better word, access or suck down at the same time, right? And that was when we turned to when browsers, internet browsers on your computer, started doing tabbed browsing. Mm-hmm. The ability to open up 50 tabs or a dozen tabs or whatever at the same time.
Man, that was awesome when I no longer crashed my computer from opening up 10,000 windows.
Dude, it was awesome. The problem was it was overwhelming. I couldn't stop. It was just this tab, this would lead me here, this would lead me here, and I've got 5 other tabs, and then, oh, wait, that's a whole other topic. And I still have trouble sometimes. I got these 5 tabs are doing this topic. These 4 over here were the ones that led me to this topic over here, and I got to remember to go back and deal with this one. And you're just processing information constantly as you're watching a video, reading through it, scrolling through, looking, searching, whatever. And that was just tabbed browsing. That was just one screen looking at me, right? Watching these kids do 3 or 4, maybe having that from a very early point in life makes it normal. I don't know, man. It just seems like it's too much, because what happens when you need to experience or work in a part of life that isn't going to feed you information like that? Like meditating or sleeping.
Yeah. Well, you could always put up some separate restrictions or separations where you don't have technology in the bedroom.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I read actually quite a bit, and I'm going to do that after this. We get done through this section. I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I had read that there is actually suggestions on how to deal with this onslaught, because we have right now, people our age and older and younger raising children that are exposed to things that we actually don't have any frame of reference in this, which is what I was trying to get at with the multiple tab idea. That was just a simple thing that is old now, right? And for me, that was a huge deal to learn to deal with when it came about. Now we have
It's common play.
Yeah, well, it's way common play, and there's, instead of just one screen full of tabs, effectually, they have like 4 screens full of a whole bunch of tabs, and they're processing all this at the same time. So that's my point. It's kind of like we're out of our element, Donnie.
Are we building the next level of superhuman thinking that can process more, and we're growing as human beings? Is this feeding that next human?
And to some degree, I believe in that very much. When I've had a couple of friends that said when they had kids, they instead of they're not going to let their kids stare at screens all day long. I was an indoor kid. I grew up playing video games and on my computer, learning and being productive and doing hobbies.
Looking
stuff like
for
that.
porn.
Yes,
Pretty much.
yeah. And
Don't come in here. I'm thinking.
go away, I'm baiting.
Why is your right arm so ripped?
I'm ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous.
Way to kill where I was going with that, because now I almost don't remember. Oh yeah, and they were saying things to the effect that, I'm not going to let my kid stay inside and play in front of the computer all the time or whatever. I want to go outside and play. All right, that's cool. And if you're going to moderate it and let them do both, great. But some of them seem to take the angle where I don't want my children doing that stuff at all at home. They can do that at school. And the first thing that came to my mind is, wait a minute. I grew up before this time, and I was very inundated in technology, very inundated in computers and the like. And it was because of all of that I was able to find a successful route and career and educational path in this changing world that's heading in that direction, and make something of myself. If you deny them completely, again, I'm more advocating moderation here. If you deny them that completely, my concern is that how are they going to learn to work and be successful and find their way through this pond that is now going to be vastly technically based? They're not going to know how to do what everybody else grew up doing around them.
They would be at a great disadvantage.
That's what I'm thinking.
Those are a lot of skills that are developed at an early age so that when they get into kindergarten, they'll be using a lot of these as tools. You did say or allude to that there are a series of schools that are going tech-free.
See, that doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
But if those children go through an entire educational system and graduate as an adult and they haven't been exposed or very minimal exposure to electronic devices, they will be at a disadvantage.
They'll be worthless.
You couldn't even work at a gas station without having understanding of computer systems and how that works.
Yeah, you won't be able to work at McDonald's because everything will be automated as far as how you even serve anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
These tech-free schools, are they K through 12,
no,
or
I
are they
think-
just
no,
like
no.
preschool?
I think they're
first
just
grade?
like first, second,
Probably.
third,
Yeah.
K through third or something like that. I don't think they go farther than that.
Early development.
Yes.
Building those basic human communication skills.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not too far into. I was thinking that wouldn't be too far into the development, but again, I'm not a child development, major or whatever. But
There are probably parents that feel that way and will decide to homeschool their children, because they don't want them being overwhelmed with all the screen time and whatnot.
yeah, but
And-
homeschooling has always brought other problems like interaction with other students or
Right.
dating, or there's
but
always
I think
weird
that also
stuff.
depends on who you're homeschooling with. I've always felt kind of weird about the homeschooling thing too, but I've got some nephews that go to a homeschooling thing, and it's called homeschooling, quote. But it's a small group that they take them to every day, and there's like 6 or 8 kids, and there's a teacher. And the parents are super heavily involved. And as I'm learning more from them, there are a lot of school situations like that in the homeschooling thing where there'll be like a teacher who's like an assistant to a small group of parents, and that's kind of like their school, situation. So there is some communal time, and there's a little more social skill involved in there. But yeah, there are people who just their kids never leave the house, and I always thought that was kind of weird.
That is weird. Yeah, that makes some really socially awkward people, and rightly so.
Yeah, right.
They're socially awkward because they don't get social very often.
They just see dad and the maid.
Jeez.
At the same time.
Clever.
But never mom, dad, and the maid at the same time.
Whoa. We're not advocating open relationships here. Polyamory. Come
Hey,
on.
do what you do.
Hey, yeah, I
Right?
guess.
Kid's gonna learn anyway.
Nice. It's from all that porn.
Right?
Another one that I was wondering about: the addictive properties of these screens. I mean, we know. Anybody who's willing to admit it to themselves anyway knows that this stupid screen is somehow, in some manner, addictive.
It's massively
Absolutely.
Dude,
I mean, looking at a cell phone, it was worse than smoking cigarettes. Like,
Yeah, you feel like you got to
Like-
do it every 30 seconds.
you know, okay, I haven't had a smoke in a while. I got the itch. I got to go do. If I don't look at my freaking phone and within 3-4 minutes, even if it hasn't beeped, it hasn't made a sound, you still want to.
Yeah.
You want to look at it. There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's screwed
and
up.
what's funny is I'm not. It doesn't really matter. It'll find something to hook you with. I'm not really into social media. I mean, I don't care. I don't check it. I don't, whatever. Not
It's
that
all
Instagram
about
or
the
whatever.
drama, man.
Yeah, yeah. But it'll be eBay. I'm checking eBay to see if something's sold, or it'll be our group text to see what's
Yeah,
going on.
even if
for
it's
this.
just the
It'll-
emails or
whatever
something, yeah.
emails. Oh yeah, there's another emails looking for deals or something. They'll find something. That's what's crazy. There's something for everyone to stare at.
I can't remember
Pokemon
the last
Go.
time I dropped a deuce without looking at my phone.
What the hell did I do?
I've even gone back to get it.
Yeah. What the hell did I do in the bathroom before I had a cell phone? Right? What did we do? You were
Read
bored.
magazines.
Yeah. Then I
Pushed harder, went out and played. I don't know. Fuck.
Focused
Well,
on the job at hand.
so
was it in
long.
there? Was it in there so long? So what effect is this addictive effect? I didn't mean to say effect twice there. Having on developing young minds. Worse than that, what effects is it having on the reward center of developing young minds?
Yeah, kids are like little crackheads, anyways.
That's
then
ex-
you go and you throw that in there, and they go fucking berserk
That
when you
is
try
ex-
to take that thing away from them.
That is exactly what my next statement was going to be. Ever tried taking a video game or a tablet from your 9-year-old?
Yeah.
Dude,
they
my nieces.
freak out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they know they have power nowadays. You freak out in the grocery store, they know you're going to jail. So you're just going to give it back. You can't hit them anymore in public.
Another ironic thing I found is as these
I don't know. You been to Walmart lately?
as these kids all get these tablets, right? It's super funny. You go to somebody's house where there's a get together or something. You'll see all the 6 to 12-year-olds stuck along the wall where the 3-foot cord is there for the power cord because they can't learn how to charge their damn iPad. So they're all stuck at the wall
Now,
charging.
their only social interaction now is beating each other up to get to a plug.
Yeah, it's my man when I was
Combat training
yeah.
of the modern era.
Make it only the strongest will survive with tablet. I was thinking, man, when I was a kid, sitting against the wall was a punishment. Now it's like now you're happy to go to the corner because there's probably a wall outlet over there as long as they let you keep your iPad. Yeah, I mean that's got to be that. There's got to be some negative development in the growth process of being a child growing up like that.
I've noticed with my niece, she had a hard time being in the car. I think it was like the car seat was uncomfortable, or their attention span is shit. She would watch YouTube videos or play on the iPad for the car ride. Now, 20 minutes for a 2-year-old is an eternity. But when her mom started taking that, her attitude got real bad, and she was worried about this. Her mom started taking the iPad away, and her attitude got worse for a short period of time.
Yes.
But she stuck to her guns, and her attitude got better. So those are characteristics of addiction, right? She went through withdrawals, lost her shit, wouldn't fucking deal with life, but eventually came back and became like a functioning person. That still shit her pants, but still as functional as we expected her to
At
be.
her age. Yeah, people don't realize. I don't think they realize as much as they should how what a heavy effect that reward center play can be coming from these devices. I mean, even if you're just playing the Candy Crush, why do grown adults get addicted to Candy Crush? I mean,
Because you're
it's like gambling.
sure it's giving you a reward. You scored the points. You broke the bricks.
Yeah, you're doing that same.
an endorphin rush.
You're
It
doing that
is.
same crap to your kid by letting them stare at that thing, even if
the
they're
rules.
just
Like
watching
sugar,
a YouTube video.
yeah.
It's like sugar for the mind.
Dude, just
That's
stick
exactly
a
what it
cigarette in
is.
their mouth and
Or a pistol, whatever.
Teach them Russian roulette.
So our kids have an iPhone, a cigarette, and a gun.
And a handgun. Not in California, buddy.
Sounds like a Texas kid to me.
Oh, hey, man. They say Texas is going liberal.
No, they ain't.
They say all the liberals are moving over.
Well, they are moving there
and taking over.
Because it's funny how the liberals are all broke.
Yeah, they're looking
Gotta
for
move
jobs
somewhere
out.
cheap.
Looking for jobs out there. Yeah. Now I continue. So all this, all this negativity here on the matter. There did seem to be that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. They said there was hope, however.
Eventually, they'll not be kids anymore, and you want to deal with it?
And then the rest of the world will have to deal with these messed up people who have grown up with these odd reward center and attention deficit disorders.
And maybe Darwin will finally kick into effect.
Oh, Darwin definitely will. A couple of studies that I had read through real quick showed that it took just a few days to a week without technology to regain some of what apparently is detrimented by using it. And they noted specifically increased empathy, better understanding of nonverbal or emotional cues, i.e. communication skills, and increased compassion.
Is this
No
in children
way.
or adults?
This was in children.
Okay.
So kind of like what you were saying, you
Yeah.
take the iPad away and take it away long enough after the fit stops and take it away a little longer than that, and all of a sudden they start becoming, they don't need it as much, right?
Yeah.
And that's scary that it happens that quick, but I've seen that happen too. Is like, yeah, they'll get over it, and when they get over it, they still don't have it. You know, it's like taking away the video game that they're used to playing, same thing. And
It's
then
like any other toy for a kid.
It, like that's what I was going on. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. It's like taking any other toy.
Yeah.
They'll get over it when they get over it. They're
Yeah.
better off for it, right? All of a sudden they want to come play with the mom or the dad or the
Yeah.
brother or something, right?
But I mean, I've got friends that I've got friends that won't stick to their guns on things like that, and I see their kids just walk all over them. And
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what's happening a lot with nowadays is a lot of kids just walk all over their
Oh, yeah.
parents.
I see it in the supermarkets all the time.
Oh,
They throw
dude,
the fit on the
constantly.
floor, and all they want to do is run over them with the damn cart and
Yeah.
save us all the
It's
So
trouble.
their parents' option is what? Give them that back or turn into a fit in the middle of McDonald's.
And you can't spank your kid anymore because somebody
Yeah.
will freak out. It's like, are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
And parents, it's not like socially acceptable for parents to like say no to their kids anymore. They're judged by other people.
Dude, that's the worst thing ever. I
environment.
remember I was at a picnic one time, and this girl, the worst kid of all the kids in this whole group I was just like, the whole day I was like, that kid sucks. You know, this kid is just a
Little
pain in the ass.
bastard.
And it was a girl, and she was just a bratty little kid. And
Bratty little brat.
yeah, and all of a sudden this older person came up and the kid was doing something totally stupid and bad, and so this older person came up and said, "Hey, no." Her mom rushed over. We don't tell her no.
Oh, yeah.
And I turned around and I said, "Then how the hell is she ever going to know boundaries?"
Yep.
And everybody just was like, "Are you freaking?"
Yeah.
But that's
so you're
a
not raising
California
this
kind
child,
of thing.
are you? Yeah. Oh, they're terrible. Yeah.
Don't say no to your kids.
Bunch
That's
of
the worst
retards here.
injustice you could ever do to a child.
Yeah. Got really stupid people raising kids, so we got a whole lot of hopeful future coming up here.
Right? Think what dating will be like for them.
It's already a pain in the ass.
Hopefully they'll be walking through a crosswalk, looking at their goddamn phone, and get hit by a bus, and we'll all be okay.
Thinking they'll be fine because it doesn't happen on YouTube, right?
Thomas will be laughing his ass off on the other side, like the red guy said no.
I'm telling you, man, when the electricity goes down, these people it's gonna be mayhem,
I'm
dude.
so
Yeah.
excited about this option.
I think it'll take adults a lot longer than just a few days to recover from their detachment or their withdrawals from electronic devices.
I don't know, man. I've gone off and on with the tech. I mean,
Yeah, we know.
You said on and off with texting.
Yeah, texting, yes. Glenn refuses to answer text messages, and it makes it very difficult sometimes to coordinate
hey, man.
our little endeavor here. And but yes,
What did Morty say? If it's worth saying, they can say it to me in my eyes. We can make eye
in my
contact.
eyes. Jeez. So okay, continuing on this tour of hope here, is instituting household rules, and I think I think Glenn was kind of alluding to this earlier. It's either Glenn or Thomas, one of you assholes. Was kind of
Mr. Asshole.
Mr. to you. You will respect my authority. Some of the stuff I was reading is good suggestions, and I think I agree with most of these, actually. A big thing, under 18 months, no screen at all. Your kid's under a year and a half, don't give them an iPad, don't give them a phone. There's a lot of things we're saying, just don't show them screens, period. And if you can limit their time in front of a television, that's good, too.
That almost seems like Why would you even remotely do that? I mean, come on, the kid's trying to breastfeed. Are you going to put a screen on a breast? Start feeding it to the kid?
At the screen.
Ben
or
would
the
sign
breast?
up.
Yeah, I
Get
mean,
implanted right above the nipple.
I know, it just seems ridiculous.
implants with screens.
Right?
Sounds like a new fetish in porn. Bionic woman, bionic boob. Anyway, shut up. Educational.
It's for the kids, man.
Think about the kids. They were saying educationally looking at a screen or looking at a screen for educational purposes only after the age of 3 was what I was reading. Closely monitor what apps and games they play after that and try to make them only educational. Now, we start off this thing saying, we don't have kids, whatever. I have looked through app stores. There are a lot of kids' apps. Now, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot that are actually educational, but there are many out there. So, I mean, that's your job as a parent. Find them and show those ones to your kid. Don't let them play, worthless crap. Don't let them watch worthless TV. I mean, I think you could still get like Reading Rainbow or ABC or Sesame Street, or like show them only educational stuff. They'll look at it and love it no matter what. They're kids. If it's colorful and has songs, they'll watch it. No tech an hour before bed. This is, again, older. This takes you into probably the teenage years. And I know I have several coworkers that have teenagers, and this is some of the common rules I hear. Another one is phones and tablets charge in the kitchen or in the living room. They don't go to bed with them. They don't go in the room with them. And there are people who do this to their high schoolers. Actually, quite a few of my coworkers do that with their high schoolers. An interesting note, too, and this is for adults and children. Ebook readers are different than tablets. Encourage them to read. Buy them a Kindle. It's much better than a tablet. Better for the eyes. Better because it has less features. It's just a book. The worst they could do is buy more books.
They can't get apps and videos on it and stuff.
No apps, no videos. Ebook screens.
That's what the Kindle?
Any ebook reader that has
okay,
an e-ink display. An e-ink display is designed, literally a type of technology. I haven't shown you mine? Literally a type of
Show me yours, man.
Why don't you look it up?
Hey, guys, keep that off the air, all right?
Hey, if you didn't bring enough for the class.
Oh, I got enough for the class, buddy.
Wow.
Anyway, an e-ink display is not a color LCD display like a iPad or a phone. It is a type of technology specifically developed to look like a piece of paper.
It's actually really easy on the eyes,
And
too.
it does. Really? Yes, it's amazing. A lot of people will complain about eye fatigue, excuse me, and other issues with trying to read a book on a tablet, on an iPad or something. Some people can do it, without problem.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't either. Pick up an ebook reader, or I'll like I said, I'll bring mine on. I'll have to show you this. I didn't realize you hadn't seen an ebook reader before, but yes, like a Kindle, and it is just like reading a book on paper. The only difference is like if you have to get over if like holding it doesn't feel like a book because you're not holding a book open.
Yeah.
However, you get a cover and you can kind of feel it feels like a book. But yeah, they're awesome, and there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of books out there for it. And I mean, yeah. So yeah, ebook readers are different than tablets. You get your kid an ebook reader and get them to read books. That's the same thing as reading books. There's no stupid games or anything for them to play on there. You can't browse the internet. I mean, some of them have. Trust me, you wouldn't be browsing the internet on these things. It's just for reading. Limit video games to a weekly number of hours. Most of my coworkers raising their kids, not that my coworkers, or anything, any type of standard, but most of the people I know are saying have told me 7 to 10 hours a week is what they let their kids play. And that's actually a lot if you think about
That's at least an hour a day.
at least or if you just do it during the week or don't do it during the week. That's another one I've heard too is no video games during the week. On the weekends, okay, we'll let you have 2 or 3 hours or whatever,
Yeah, but that seems low. Like even from what I remember when I was a kid.
Well, when we were kids, it was different. But I had time limits.
Yeah. But
My dad didn't.
8 hours a week?
Hey, but how are you supposed to let your kids get on the esports team if they don't have free reign of the video games?
Esports, yeah. Let's see. This was a big one in my house. Encourage hobbies and creative outlets. Mm-hmm. Every single human being should play some instrument, even if they suck at it, especially during the early development ages.
Learn to draw.
I was just going to say coloring or drawing. Doesn't matter.
I loves me some crayons.
Dude, adult not pornography related. I hate using that word adult anymore because it's like every time I say it, I think I didn't mean porn.
Adults don't use fucking coloring books. They're big kid coloring books is what they are.
They're big kid coloring books.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But I think you got a seller there with the porn.
Yeah,
Dude.
really, huh?
Adult coloring books that are porn related.
I'd
Porn
buy
sells
them.
Karma
everything.
Sutra or some kind of thing.
Nice. Yes, coloring.
Invest
is
now.
Very
Invest now.
healthy. That's right. That's right. A great distraction. We'll begin developing, looking for investments.
That can be scratch and stiff.
Nice. Well played, sir. Got a little weird. Oh, dude, my
Just
mind's
trying
just running away with that.
to cater to all audiences, right?
I'm trying to think of the logistics of this, dude, how we could do that.
Think of the kids, Ben.
Back to the kids. Back to the
That's
kids.
how kids are made.
It's for the starving children.
Encouraging and promoting human interaction. That sounds silly, but I mean, literally telling your kids to, hey, bring your friends over, or go see your friends, or come play with your brother or your sister, or take them outside and play.
Try not to drown them.
trying to push them into the freeway. Do something with them. Encouraged family activities and vacations. Again, more time with humans and less with devices. Leave the devices at home.
Taking them to
Bonding.
the arcade.
Bonding.
Bonding
yes.
with each other. instead
Bonding.
of with their device.
Well, that's why I always say, having siblings is super important because I think a lot of single kids that are only children, I think, get caught in
That's
some of these
tough.
ruts too.
That's tough. I've
And
known a few
yeah.
only children, and I mean, you have to learn to entertain yourself, and I mean, it's like,
Right.
that's tough. Well, if that's the case, that means, hey, if you're only going to have one child, then that's your responsibility even more to entertain it and teach it right. However, some aspects, I imagine that would be a little easier. You only have one mind that you're trying to develop. I mean,
And you can also probably afford to do a little bit more with
Exactly,
them. I remember when
yeah.
I had all my siblings were way older than me,
Yep.
and we never did anything when I was a kid. By the time I was like 12 or 13, all of a sudden my mom's like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Wow, we're getting to do stuff." She's like, "Well, I'm not paying for 4 other kids anymore. They're grown."
yeah, that's a good point.
I was like, "Wow, this is cool." So from the time I was about 12 to about 18 it was awesome. Everybody else is gone.
Yeah, it's just you. One of the biggest ones that we had already mentioned before, but I did see it mentioned several times. You got to set the good example. I mean, you can't expect them to not want to stare at some device or play some video game if they see you doing it as the parent all the time, which sucks. But that means you have to curtail your use of what you want to do with life. But guess what? You had kids.
Lead by example.
That's it. Yeah, that's what one of the biggest sacrifices a human being will ever make, and that's part of the job.
You remember there's an old anti-drug commercial, and that kid gets in trouble, and he's like, "Where'd you learn this from?" "I learned it from you, Dad."
Yeah, he was smoking pot, right? That's
He's in the dark with an iPhone. "I learned it from you, Dad."
I can't stop, Dad. I can't.
We definitely need a smear campaign against social media and tech uses.
Right.
Just
You
like
can't-
the old pot commercials.
If you can't put it down, pull out.
That's amazing.
I love it.
That's amazing. We are leaving on that note. Awesome. Yeah. To those of you who are listening and you have children, you're going through this, best of luck. It is difficult, I'm sure, no doubt, to find that balance, but moderation and seek and ye shall find. Remember, you're building better humans for the future. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.